Character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved.
Welcome to the Character Class podcast, where we share stories, solutions, and strategies for strengthening character. Here's your host, author, speaker, and character educator, Andrew Francis.
Welcome back to another episode. The Character Class is now in session. Thank you for taking the time to tune in today. If you're joining us for the first time, the Character Class is the place where we share stories, strategies, and practical ways to strengthen character. This is where business executives, educators, and leaders learn to build character and become better. When Hellen Keller spoke of character, she said that character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. It is only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved. Suffering is one of those subjects we do not talk about a lot. When we think of suffering, we think of pain, hardship, and anguish. The root origin of the word suffering is path or pathy, which is where we get empathy and sympathy. Path refers to emotion, feeling, and suffering. Yet too many people are not even comfortable with their own feelings. And as a result, their characters suffer. Our character is often seen as the virtues and values that serve as the foundation for our thoughts and actions. Rooted in those thoughts and actions is our awareness of and management of our emotions. As a society, we are deeply lacking when it comes to emotional intelligence. When we understand emotional intelligence to include how we interpret, express, and communicate our emotions, you don't have to look too much further than the news to see that we have an emotional intelligence problem. Within the last week, a 21-year-old male killed 5 people in a Florida bank. In a separate incident, another 21-year-old male shot and killed 3 people near Penn State. And yet, in another separate incident, a 21-year-old shot and killed 5 people in Louisiana. All 3 of those happened in the span of a week. We have an emotional intelligence deficit, and these dire acts of violence are the tip of the iceberg. The FBI recently released their report this week regarding the mass deadly shooting event in Las Vegas back in October of 2017, where 58 people were killed and nearly 900 others were injured. While most of the headlines stated that their motive remains unknown, it can be difficult to assign a post-mortem motive, but it does not take an extensive investigation to know that a lack of emotional intelligence was a major contributing factor. The Mind Tools team breaks down emotional intelligence as presented by Daniel Goleman in his 1995 book entitled Emotional Intelligence: Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. Here are the 5 elements that define emotional intelligence. Number 1, self-awareness. People with high emotional intelligence are very self-aware. They understand their emotions, and because of this, they don't let their feelings rule them. They're confident because they trust their intuition, and they don't let their emotions get control of them, and they don't let their emotions get out of control. They're also willing to take an honest look at themselves. They know their strengths and their weaknesses, and they work on these areas so that they can perform better. Many people believe that this self-awareness is the most important part of emotional intelligence. Once you understand where you stand, then you can better understand the perspective from which you are seeing things. Number 2, self-regulation. This is the ability to be able to control your emotions and your impulses, or how you react to those emotions. People who self-regulate typically do not allow themselves to become too angry or too jealous, or allow themselves to make impulsive or careless or rash decisions. They think before they act. Characteristics of self-regulation include thoughtfulness, being able to be comfortable with change, and the ability to say no. When you're able to self-regulate, to exercise that self-control, that personal discipline, that's able to give you a strong foundation to continue to build your character. Number 3, motivation. People with a high degree of emotional intelligence are usually motivated. They're willing to defer immediate gratification for long-term success. They're highly productive and they love a challenge. They're very effective at what they do because they're able to motivate themselves as they look at the big picture. Number 4, empathy. This is sometimes considered the second most important element of emotional intelligence. Empathy is the ability to identify with and understand the wants and needs and the viewpoints of those around you. So people with empathy are good at recognizing the feelings of others, even when those feelings may not be obvious. As a result, emphatic people are usually excellent at managing relationships, listening, and relating to others. They avoid stereotyping and judging too quickly, and they live their lives in a very open and honest way. They're able to take the temperature of a room. People with empathy are usually good at allowing themselves to be the catalyst to make a relationship work because they understand where the other person may be coming from. And finally, number 5, social skills. It's usually easy to talk to and like people with good social skills. And that's usually a sign of high emotional intelligence. Those who have good, strong social skills are typically team players. Rather than focusing on their own success first, they help others develop and shine. They are able to manage disputes and they're excellent communicators. They're masters at building and maintaining relationships. So when you have good social skills, you're able to not only enter a room, but you're able to connect people within that room. Social skills allow you to build and maintain those important connections. And those connections are the lifeblood of all of our relationships. Part of developing emotional intelligence is being able to break through emotional barriers. Mr. Jason Wilson addresses this issue in the book, Breaking Through Emotional Barriers, the 4 F's to Emotional Freedom. Now, we'll get to those 4 F's during our next episode. But I also want to mention his most recent book, Cry Like a Man. Here's an excerpt from the prologue.
Men, we've scaled the heights and have even broken free from the atmosphere that enfolds us from birth to fly among the stars. Yet amid all the risk and reward, the dilemmas and dangers, we have yet to conquer the most basic human ability, to cry. With all the misleading mantras, man up, no pain, no gain, and real men don't cry, we have been deceived into suppressing our emotions to impress others. There's simply no room for weakness. When we vent, we're perceived as complainers. When we're tired, we're lazy. When we're discouraged, we're depressed. When we hesitate, we're double-minded. And when we cry, we're soft. With all these predetermined judgments about us, it's no wonder why so many of us fake it to make it.
You've just listened to an excerpt from Cry Like a Man. Pre-order now at Amazon.
Once again, that book is Cry Like a Man by Jason Wilson. And you can find it on Amazon, and I'll leave a link for it in the show notes. This is not an affiliate link. I just believe in promoting products that will uplift and bring about the change we so desperately need. My character challenge for you this week is to evaluate your emotional intelligence. How is your self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills? Make a particular note of how you believe you are developing mastery in these areas. Because once you're able to develop them, you will not only strengthen your character, but you'll also allow yourself to make better decisions. I love hearing from you, so send your feedback, lessons learned, and even your very own character stories. You can send a note, or you can tag us on Facebook and Instagram at Character Class, one word, on Twitter at character_class, or simply email us at podcast@thecharacterclass.com. Share your story with us and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. Follow us online and join in on the conversation. And a reminder that all of our references from today's podcast can be accessed over on our show notes. And until next time, remember that character can change the world.
Thank you for listening to the Character Class podcast. You can follow the Character Class on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. If you've not already, go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join us next week for another Character Class podcast.